This is a production of KMmedia.pro. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So come on over into our world. I know you'll like it, because on today's show... No, I've been looking forward to today's show all week long, because those of you that have listened to Positive Talk Radio for a while know that music is one of the things that not only can I not do it, but I love to listen to it, and I love to listen to great bands and great musicians, and we've got both of those today on the show. And first of all, Eric, how are you, my friend?
Hey, good afternoon and happy Friday, Kevin. I'm doing fine.
It is a Friday and it's raining. It's not supposed to rain. It's summertime.
It's not summer. And we've had several hot days, so I think of this as a nice change of pace.
Oh,
you were just complaining on Wednesday about how hot you were. So
well,
doesn't
true.
This feel refreshing?
Well, if I ever got outside, it would be.
Well, there you
but
go.
I've been in my studio all day doing podcasts and all that kind of good stuff. But by the way, I want to thank you again for last Friday, because I know we had some technical glitches and you handled it beautifully. And I had some real good comments on the show.
It was just a great opportunity to feature the music of today's guests. So, I look at it as a win-win.
Absolutely. And by the way, you know more about this particular song that we're about to play. The group that we're featuring today, they are a Seattle band, and they've actually had 2 million not downloads, but plays on Spotify of their latest. So they're an up and coming, I like to call them a local band with a national presence. And we're going to be talking to two of the members, the lead singer and the drummer / manager, in just a moment. But before we do that, Eric, can you give us a little background on the song we're about to play? And then we can, because you did that so beautifully last time.
Well, yeah. Today's guest is Limberlost, the band, and they did a great cover of the Alana Miles classic, Black Velvet. So do you want to play a little bit of that before we bring them on?
Yes, I want everybody to get an idea of just how talented these people are.
Awesome. Let's see if we can share a little bit of the video as well. So here we go.
Mississippi, in the middle of a dry spell. Jimmy Rogers on the Victrola up high. Mama's dancing with the baby on her shoulders. The sun is setting like molasses in the sky. Wouldn't see, knew how to move everything. Always wanting more. You leave you longing for black velvet and a little boy smile. Black velvet and that slow southern style. A new religion that'll bring you to your knees. Black velvet, if you please. Oh, up in Memphis, the music's like a heat wave. One lightning is bound to drive you wild. Mama's baby is in the heart of every schoolgirl. And love me tender leaves them crying in the yards. The way he moved was just sin, so sweet and true. Always wanting more. He leave you longing for black velvet and a little boy smile. Black velvet and that slow southern style. A new religion that'll bring you to your knees. Black velvet, if you please. Every word of every song that he sang was for you.
And That is a little bit of Limberlost and Black Velvet. And I just love doing this. This is so much fun for me. And with that, Eric, let's go ahead and introduce Mike and Krystle. Hi guys, how you doing?
Hey,
What's going on, guys?
Thanks so much for having us today.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And by the way, I just want to make sure, because I used to do a show on KKNW featuring local artists and music. And I had one gentleman that was infatuated with the F word. And so we ran out of 7-second delay. So we had to terminate the show. So I just want to make sure
Don't worry.
that we are.
Krystle, you need to behave yourself.
Exactly.
I'm the mother hen of the group. So really, I'll be the one policing the language for you.
Well, that'll be good, because I hate to make Eric have to run for the 7-second, for the dump button is what they call it, because what they do is they dump a little bit of the audio so that a bad word doesn't go out. But welcome to the show. How are you guys?
Doing great.
We're wonderful.
Enjoying the change of weather. A little bit of rain is a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. I went to bed in Baja, California, and woke up in Juneau, Alaska.
Yeah.
But
So Limberlost is the name of the band. You've been together. How long have you guys been together for?
well, there's a debate on that, but the actual band started in towards the early part of 2011, is when the project kind of got off the ground, and then different people kind of came on board. I think Krystle and I would go back and forth whether she came in 2012 or 2013 or 2014, but I think it was 2013. So anyway, but yeah, so we've been together for a long time. The actual band kind of kicked itself off, I would say probably towards the end of 2016. We'd done some recording, some singles and stuff like that, and they were starting to get a little traction in the area. And our first live show as a band was I think September 24th, 2016. So, and we've been off and running since. It hasn't really slowed down much.
Well, you guys have been doing some great, and I wanted to ask you because Brittany, who is also in the band, and she also has got Pipsqueak Piano, which is doing some summer things that we're going to talk about, and she might be able to get here in a little bit, and we'll talk about it then. But she introduced me to you guys, and so I was looking at your name, going, "Is it Limberlost because over time you're not as flexible as you used to be?"
Lost our limber.
It's you could interpret that way if you chose to, but there's a backstory to it. And the Limberlost is actually a place. It's a swamp, a wilderness. And when I was a young girl, my favorite novel was a book called A Girl of the Limberlost. It's a great book. It's kind of a story, a coming of age, finding music, save the farm story. And it had always kind of followed me. And when we had started looking for a name, there was coincidentally a patch of woods behind our guitar player's grandmother's house, and it was called the Limberlost. And so it was just something that came up, and we decided to research it, where the name came from. And there's a backstory about a guy who got lost out there, and the Limberlost is named for him, and kind of his story about how he found his way out and how that affected his life and his choices and things like that. So,
well, you guys, that's much better than the story that I told.
Yeah.
We've had a few good interpretations of that name. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
So, by the way, and I know you know this, you get told this all the time, Krystle, but you've got an amazing voice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Well, when did you discover that you had the pipes that you have?
There was never a point in my life where I didn't sing, and it took a long time for me to actually realize that not everybody could sing. It was just a natural thing that I would do. And even when I was little, I have songs in my head that I was writing and orchestrating when I was like 4 or 5 years old, so it was just always the thing that we did. There were always instruments in the house, and my dad was a guitar player, rock and roll guitar player for a long time. So it was just the thing to do and the thing to pick up and enjoy. And I remember I was in church one time, and there was an older gentleman who was standing in front of me, and I was probably 10, and he kept turning around and looking at me, and I was so confused. And at the end, he came up to my mom and said something about my voice, and that was kind of when I had the moment of like, oh, this isn't the same way for everyone. I remember kind of processing that at that age.
When did you discover that you could sing rock and roll?
Rock and roll. Again, my dad was a rock guitar player, so my first on stage experience was singing with him in a reunion band that he was playing with from the good old days, and I sang old time rock and roll with my dad on stage.
Oh, that's pretty
So
cool.
that was, yeah, it was good memory, good experience. So
Yeah, and so because there's a difference between singing in church and
there
singing rock
is.
and roll.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Definitely. And I think that's something actually that maybe Michael agree that since we started that's something that I've grown into more over the years. Just being on stage and being in front of people and finding my own way in stage presence and connecting with songs and connecting with lyrics and things that I think that's something that I've definitely grown into, being more and more comfortable sounding like myself rather than having to feel like I need to emulate somebody else.
And you and Brittany make a terrific
Yeah.
pair
Yeah.
of singing harmonies and stuff. You know, when I first met her, I said, "Well, are you the lead singer?" And she said, "No, I'm just the background singer." And
No, she's not. She's way more than that. So she is one of the vocalists of Limberlost. She does sing lead every once in a while, but the magic in our voices is that she's in a register just a bit higher than I am, and we share something in the quality of our voice that blends so well. So there's just the perfect place for her to sit a third above me in a lot of the songs that we sing, that just ends up being something that brings a lot of energy and is something that we can use as a tool stylistically and dynamically on stage, the way we're able to work together and play off of each other. She also does like all of our vocal arrangements, so anything you're hearing as far as like background vocals and harmonies and things, she is the one who is putting that together and directing that when we're recording, stuff like that. So she is so much more than just the background singer. Don't let her tell you that.
Well, okay, I'll correct her the next time
Yes.
that
Yes.
I see her.
Thank you.
But the other thing is that there's another Seattle band that you may have heard of that features two females
Gee.
that have got wonderfully powerful voices. I don't know if you've let's see if I can't remember. Let's see.
It's ringing a bell. I don't know.
Nirvana.
It wasn't Nirvana. Maybe it was like Heart. Maybe
that
Heart.
was
That
my
was
dad's
it.
dream, was for me to be Ann Wilson. I was raised on the sisters Ann and Nancy for sure. So, and it took us a few years, but we did eventually pick up a cover song that we're doing. We play Straight On by Heart, because it's kind of obligatory being a Seattle-ish based band and having two front women. So
Yes.
we had to.
You're actually, are you all from Redmond, or are you from the greater Puget Sound area?
Most of us are like South Puget Sound, Puyallup, Tacoma, that kind of area. Brittany's the one who's from up north. I think John might be up north now, so we're a little bit farther spread apart, but we're home base is kind of in Puyallup.
Yeah, we got a couple Federal Way people.
Yeah.
And Michael does something. He plays the drums, and he does something that I can't imagine doing what you do, because how did you learn to independently operate each foot and each hand from each other?
Right.
I can't give you the answer I gave you last time.
Why not?
He's been warned.
He's been warned. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. I think it just comes down to, it's just something you work at. I don't know. It happens. It's a feel kind of thing.
It's like dancing.
But it's definitely something you've got to work at. I mean, anything in music, I think, whether you've got natural ability or not, if you're really going to cultivate it, there's discipline that you have to put into it. You have to practice. You have to, you have to stretch yourself a little bit, and you also have to know what be honest what kind of player you are. I think one of the cool things about Limberlost is we don't really try and run outside of our abilities and who we are. We bring it together and just play strong. And that's it's better to play that way and serve the song that way than it is to try and do a bunch of stuff, a bunch of gymnastics just to try and impress other musicians and stuff. So it's kind of like that's kind of always been my approach.
Uh-oh.
SpaghettiOs.
Well, Krystle, let's continue until he comes
Sure.
back.
Absolutely.
I don't know what it is about you guys, but Bridget had the same, or Brittany had the same problem last week. Anyway.
I know. And I just had my internet connection repaired, so we should be okay, you and me.
You're good to go.
Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
You have multiple songwriters in the band.
Yes, we do. And that is, I think, one of my favorite aspects of being in this band, much in the way that, like, in Fleetwood Mac, you have different songwriters. So you have your place in your genre, you have the music that you make, but there's still distinction between each of the songs because they've originated from a different person or in a different set of circumstances. Some of our songs were just like riffs that the guys would jam on for months and months and months before I ever put lyrics to them. Some of them were songs that I would wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning and run out to the garage and, record on my iPhone, and we'd, turn into a song that way. Or, we've got Mike, who's written several of our songs, or we've got Tony on keyboards, who's written several of our songs. Myself and Brittany have written several of our songs. So it's a great way to have like variety, but still have a cohesive sound, because once we've written the songs, we're in the room together, developing the sound and the flavor of the songs as we're preparing them for the road or for recording.
Well, it's interesting because, and I'm not sure that a lot of people know this, but there are people who can write music, and there are people who write lyrics. And sometimes, as an example, Elton John and Bernie Taupin, they are not the same person. Bernie
sometimes,
he writes all the lyrics, and Elton John does the music. But Elton John has openly admitted he can't write lyrics to save his life.
Really? I didn't actually know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's fascinating.
You see that's what happens when you get older and you've been around a long time. You
learn something new every day, though. It's important.
Yeah, you gain information that nobody cares about. Anyway.
Yeah.
Who's the lyricist in the band, or do you have multiple people that do that too?
Again, that's multiple people. For a song like Babylon, if you go back and listen to our first album, that's a song that Mike wrote. And he kind of took a riff that the guitar player was playing and turned it into a song. If you listen to Good Fight, which is one that we'll be playing, I believe, at the end of the show today, that's a song that I wrote from start to finish. I arranged the music and wrote the lyrics, and then we brought the sound together as a band. Brittany has written a couple of our songs, In the Garden and Remains, that are on the second album. So it just kind of depends. Tony, our keyboard player, brought a piece of a song, Long Way From Home. He brought the chorus and some of the music arranged as an idea, and then I put additional lyrics to that, and it became kind of a cooperative lyric writing on that one. So again, many different origination stories for each of the songs that we have.
I know you guys get together a couple of times a week to practice.
Yeah.
But when you released the Good Fight album, and you went on Spotify and started looking at the number of streams that it was accumulating, did you guys like go there and go, I gotta look again,
Yeah, it's interesting. It's been kind of also a bit of a slow slope up that, you put something out on Spotify as a relatively unknown band, and then over time things start getting picked up on playlists, and those stream numbers start creeping up, and all of a sudden, like, I personally, I don't tend to keep an eye on that stuff. I don't keep tabs on it, but Mike will every once in a while, he'll shoot us a message and be like, hey, are you guys looking at this? Did you guys see what's going on? Or like, right after a music video releases or something, he'll be like, hey, you guys see this? Check this out. And it's really, really cool. It's really, really exciting. There he is.
And Mike is back.
Hey,
you made it.
I'm telling you, me and technology.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. No, we were just talking about the formula that you guys use to write songs, and who all are songwriters and lyricists. And turns out that you guys are pretty much an ensemble band. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a big bag of cats. We get formal in there.
Wet ones. You have to chase them.
And then they start clawing each other, and then we throw it out in the room and see what happens. And there's a song. So
yeah.
I gotta ask you, you guys have been together for a while now. What's it like being together and with it's a 6-piece band, right?
Yes.
Correct.
How do you manage the egos? How do you manage the people and the normal course of life that people go through?
Can I show my pistol on? Can I show my pistol on this?
No, you may not. No, to me, band is family. Like, you spend that much time with people, and then you do that thing where the honeymoon wears off, and you start to get a little bit more real and a little bit more raw with each other, and people have conflict naturally, and you have to be willing to set that aside for the tour, for the project, for the recording, whatever it is. And when we're able to do that, we're able to have the benefit of enjoying what we're doing, right? If we're not able to resolve conflict, that's not good for anybody. And that's something that we are, trying to shape in our culture as a group, that we're respectful at all times toward each other, that even when we're frustrated, there's appropriate ways to communicate, even with somebody like that you're super comfortable around being. So you get a little ugly sometimes about stuff. We're trying to make sure that it's an uplifting and positive experience for everybody to be in the room. We want to be at band practice, Yeah.
There's also the aspect of the, because we've gone through changes and, over the years, and we've had different personnel. We've added pieces. We didn't start as a 6-piece. We started as a 4-piece.
Yeah.
And so we've added members places over the time. And then we've had a couple changes here and there. I think we had 4 keyboard players, something like that. Tony would say 5 because he played with one at the beginning, and then we picked him back up again later. But so I mean, the band will evolve, and eventually, especially if you're doing what we're trying to do, the things we're trying to accomplish, the band will start to develop into a brand. And when the brand starts to solidify and crystallize itself, then the band ends up needing to serve the brand, and that will make things change and morph and stuff too. So, it's very interesting. We've been in a season of that here as of late, and it's been it's nerve-wracking, but it's also kind of fun because things are all, you watch like barriers being knocked down, because we were holding ourselves back for this reason or that reason. So, I don't know. It just gets more. I think it gets just more complicated as time goes on.
It does.
Oh, I can only imagine. So when you guys are together, what's it like? Now you're going to play in Sturgis this summer again.
This will be our 3rd time. Yeah.
Yes, which is exciting. Now, do you have a van that you go over in with all the equipment? And how does that happen?
We're motorhoming it, baby. We rent a motorhome and hit the road. We cram 8 people into a tuna can and call it a vehicle and go.
and a trailer full of gear, and
trailer full of gear. Yeah.
Now, when you're in the van, do you have like rules?
Kinda, but
everybody's a grown up. The rule is be a grown up, right? Like don't be a child about stuff.
Well, I've known several bands that they've got a hard and fast rule that we have a potty in the mobile home, but nobody gets to go number 2.
Okay. I would add that to our rider potentially after some of our experiences last year with a rental trailer that went very, very wrong in 100-degree heat in Sturgis with no plumber available. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, that's probably a good rule of thumb, is to be considerate of everybody's olfactory senses in the vicinity.
It's basically a can of potato chip odors and BO.
It's just weird. What it turns into. There is one rule. There was one rule that stands from some travel that we did early on in the game. It's probably been 5 years now, but it's no tacos and Stella in combination.
No.
I was going to say no Taco Bell for you.
Exactly. No questionable tacos and then pounding it back with some Stella after the show. That was one of those nights I will never ever forget.
It's got to be weird. You have a husband, you have a wife, and you get used to each other and the things that that just naturally happen. But when you're together with 6 other people and you know each other, but you don't know each other that
Yeah.
I mean, you get to know each other. You do. You're forced to in some circumstances, for sure. And that's part of the adventure too.
Some of the runs are pretty long, so you run out of things to do. So a good game of pull my finger does what happens. I'm just saying.
So, Mike, you mentioned that and by the way, we're talking with Limberlost. If you want to go to their website and buy their music, please, it's limberlostmusic.com. Before I ask you this question, Mike, I want to give my public service announcement, because it is something that is near and dear to my heart. And that is that these people give their lives to music. They've spent their lives learning the trade. They're doing the best that they can to provide you with the best entertainment possible. Do not stream their music. Please buy their music, because they make a little bit of money when you buy it. They make, I think somebody told me it was 0.001 cent per stream on like Spotify or something. So when you look at 2 million streams, that's a lot, but then you have to do the actual math, and that's not nearly as much. But
it's a happy meal.
It's a happy meal. Yeah.
So please, 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 and this goes to any musician that you are like or infatuated with, please buy their music.
Buy the music, go out to the shows. Live show attendance is a great way to support music that you love. Buying the merch, repping the merch, getting the word out, sharing links, YouTube links, things like that, anything like that. It doesn't have, if you can't afford to monetarily support the bands, you can still be part of the crew by sharing and word of mouth and all of that kind of stuff too.
Yep.
Indeed. Now I need to take a break, but when we come back from this break, Mike said that the band has a mission statement, and has a desire to do something with Limberlost. So when we come back from this break, I'm gonna ask you that question. So you got 2 minutes to prepare, sir.
Sounds good.
You're listening to Positive Talk Radio on KIXI, and we'll be right back after these messages. Hey, PTR loyal listener. First, thanks for being in my dream. And second, I have a new concept in business to share with you. It's called socialpreneurship. So, what's that? Well, it's the idea that any company designates all profits, beyond expenses, to be awarded to a local or international charity or project which is working to achieve good in the world. KM Media is such a company. We believe that it's important for us to give back whenever possible and to make great things happen. So I hope you'll join us in creating this new business model that will positively impact all of us. In the next few weeks, we will lay out the plan and begin our fundraising efforts. So stay tuned for more details right here on Positive Talk Radio.
When you want to say more than words communicate, you can with flowers. Your custom boutique floral studio in Bothell, Washington is anaturaldesign.com, connecting you to nature through the language of flowers. Where your people are is where our flowers are beautiful. Your success is our goal. anaturaldesign.com at your fingertips today.
Hey, thanks for listening to Positive Talk Radio. Did you know that we're also a media production company? Well, surprise, we are. We can create all kinds of audio, video products to fill any need. Please visit kmmedia.pro/our-store for a complete list of products and services. In addition, do you need a great voice to add to your own website or any other project? I know that we can add depth and quality to your work. I've been told more times than I can count by many professionals in the business that my voice adds to the quality of the presentation. So, let me create something for you. please contact me at kevin@kmmedia.pro and let's create something great. And welcome back to Positive Talk Radio here on KIXI. If you're wondering why we're on Kixie, it's because we started doing this about a month ago, and so we get to be on Friday at 3 o'clock every week on Kixie. The rest of the time, we're on KKNW. So Monday, Wednesday, so the show goes like this: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Friday. So we did a show on KKNW earlier today, and then Kixie now, and then we're on Monday and Wednesday on KKNW. And so, Mike, you disappeared there for a second, but now you're back. So this is all good. So I wanted to ask you, now you are the drummer / manager person of the band.
Chief Cat Wrangler.
Chief Cat Wrangler. And you guys really have a mission. What is your mission and what do you hope to achieve?
Me, girls.
Of course.
No, that's an open-ended question. I wouldn't really call it a mission as much as there's a vision, and that is that, there's the opportunity for us to go out and do things in the music business. The music business is a really fragmented monster nowadays. There used to be this, or at least there was this perceived way that you got, you made it through the through the scene, so to speak, and how you advanced and got signed and all this stuff. And there's a lot of misinterpretations of what all that really looked like and still looks like today. And then all of a sudden, streaming took over, and Napster, and internet, and everything's free to everybody. And you made a comment, and I appreciate you saying that about reaching out and supporting stuff. And as Krystle said too, the engagement and sharing what we're doing and talking about it and stuff, that really helps too. It's like all of a sudden everybody in the music business makes money except the musician. It's like you pay the photographer, and I know there's some photographers around that come out and do some cool stuff for us for almost nothing. And we've had some really cool people lean into us and help us out. But, I'm saying in general, there's, PR work, you don't get on the radio. And I'm not, when I'm like on a national program, programming and stuff like that, that doesn't happen, just because you're good. That happens because somebody's paying to put you in there. And whether that's a record label or you're doing it yourself or you have an executive producer or what have you. So we started learning all this stuff as we've been going, and it just made it kind of interesting to try and navigate through it. And then other things started happening. It was kind of like we just started getting opportunities that you just wouldn't think a band like ours was going to get. And I think it was partially just because I think we had a certain tenacity. I think we're a good band. Obviously, I think we're a good band, but there were just some things opportunities that would pop up, and then all of a sudden we were able to go after those and wrangle those things in, and it allowed us to start experiencing more and more of what the music business was, and also meeting people. We've got an incredible team of people around us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some pretty big names too. Our producers, that's produced Good Fight, which you're going to play here in a little bit. And one of my personal mentors, he's worked with, I'm not going to name drop. I'm just saying you could go to his website and you'll see the people this guy's worked with over the years. And then we've got Paul, our management company, Paul Crosby, with the rock band Saliva. There's some other guys that we've worked with, the Loggins Group, the Concrete Marketing, and Bob over there in Nashville, and just folks that and then we've got the Vaughn Artist Boys. Those guys are
publishing.
And it's just like all of a sudden we're seeing this idea turn into something that's more than just a bunch of people getting together and playing music. There's a performance part of it, there's a travel, there's investment. But there's also these opportunities where we can take our music and do things with it that maybe we didn't think we were going to be able to, or people.
Takes a village.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're moving. We're moving into trying to get more of a national. I actually have. I can't even. I don't know that it's going to turn into anything, but I do have a very incredible, in my world, incredible call that I'm going to be on right after I get off of this. That could add to that, could change some things for us.
Well, I want you to keep in mind a couple things. Keep in mind, first of all, you are going to accomplish what you believe that you can do.
Yeah.
So I want you to
Absolutely.
change the thing of, I think we're a good band to we are a great band, and I want you to say that we are going to have a national presence. We are going to do some great stuff. But I have a really, really important question to ask both of you. Now, Mike
Sure.
is frozen again, so we'll see what happens.
We'll get him back.
Oh,
There he is.
he came back.
Just
So
in time.
there is a rock band called Saliva, and why didn't they
Yes.
just call themselves Spit?
That's one of those questions
I
for
missed
the
that.
ages, isn't it?
I'm sorry, just had to, because there are rock bands that I've never heard of that are in the local scene. Now, you guys have been in the local scene for a while. Is it changed from Nirvana days and Alice in Chains and those? Has the scene really changed a lot since then?
Complicated question. I think in some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I think that definitely put Seattle on the map for sure, and it had an influence over so much of what has come afterwards. The challenge though is like how to take that and become like the next level, the next generation of Seattle music. Like what is the current thing happening in Seattle, and kind of keeping an eye on that. But for us, it's never been like Seattle being our goal per se. It's always been, we've had our eyes on the big national prize as long as we've been able to. And now that we're starting to be able to do that by traveling out to Sturgis and big festival in Montana that we're going to play Rock in the Rivers and things like that. It's interesting to see things shift and change, because in the internet age that we're in now, the game is changing every day. I mean, 9 or 10 months ago, the goal was do something with your streaming or do something online, and you're going to get connected with record companies in this way, but the target is always moving, and you have to stay flexible, and you have to be willing to try things and do things that nobody else is doing. And rather than just kind of, living on what, the legacy is part of who we are as Seattle musicians, but it's about what we do with that legacy,
No, I get it completely, because like what I'm doing with Positive Talk Radio, we are on the radio, we are on YouTube, Facebook,
Yeah.
Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on all of those things, and we are doing the podcast and going to 50 some odd locations. So you can go to positivetalkradio.net and you can find us quite a lot. But you got to, if you're going to get out there, and if your name isn't like, I don't know, Jimmy Kimmel or somebody
exactly.
like that, you've got to develop it from a period of time, and
you have to be willing to try all of the different avenues and to not take no for an answer. I think that's one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing and where we are, is because Mike doesn't take no for an answer. That guy's a bulldog, and I'll tell you that while he's not here. he will catch a scent on the wind, and he will go and he will knock on the doors until it's absolutely slammed in our face. And if that happens, we walk around it, we find another door,
the first time I just got to mention this, because
Sure.
the first time that I talked to Mike, I was concerned that I wouldn't be able to get a word in edgewise for the entire hour. And
he's driven. He's definitely driven, emotive, which is wonderful, because there's this perception about being a front person for a band, that person is the band leader or the band director. And in our case, that's the reason why I'm able to do what I do, is because Mike does what he does. I am not that personality who can go out and get us the gigs and get us the bookings. Mike makes it possible for me to be an artist. He makes it possible for me to learn and grow in what I'm doing and to love my part of the job. And he takes care of all of the paperwork, to which I am extremely allergic. Achoo.
And by the way, Mike, she just called you a bulldog, just like
I
you
did.
like to know.
There was a guy that interviewed us with a bulldog.
Barriers. That's his job.
You had a bulldog interview you.
Well, interviewed her.
Yes, there was a radio personality who interviewed I interviewed with that was a very entertaining interview, and that's one of our band stories is that he decided that Limberlost wasn't good enough and he was going to call us Lumberlust. So
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I don't think so.
So,
Because go ahead, Mike.
no, so it's Texas guys. He's from Texas. He was he just had a thing going. Well, and he had a shtick to his show too, so that kind of fit into it. But sometimes you don't know. You go on these shows. Sometimes you really don't know what you're walking into until you.
Radio interviews are like a box of chocolates.
Yep.
You never know what you're gonna get,
and it might be X-Lax, so you never know.
Exactly.
Well, you had a question, and I was really intrigued by it, but then I buzzed out. You said something about the Seattle scene. It was, and then I.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. What was that? What was your question? And then because I just heard you start it, and then
basically the question was, grunge and Nirvana and Alice in Chains and all those guys. Has it changed to now from then? Is it a lot different? Or is there still a Seattle sound? I guess would be a good question.
Well, that well, I mean, is Jimmy a Seattle sound? Is Hart a Seattle sound? That's a really tough question. This is what I'll say about Seattle. Seattle has some of the most talented musicians you'll find on the planet. There's just incredible people that come out of this area. The scene itself, I think, it ebbs and flows just like anything else does. The thing about rock and roll is, they say rock and roll will never die. Well, no, it won't, but it morphs and
it changes. Yeah.
It changes, and you have to be able to also, I think, in a sense, be able to encapsulate something and put it where it belongs and say, yeah, we had this grunge and this grunge metal era that pretty much kind of stopped being a phenomenon, quite a couple decades ago, actually. But there were some great bands that came out of that era, and they're still out there playing. And they can say the same thing about the 80s and stuff. And that there's now, I think sometimes I run into this in other cities that we play in too. Sometimes I think we get so stuck on that we still got to try and hold on to something that we don't create any room for something new to develop. And again, most of these bands that you're talking about, they didn't really bust loose here. They went somewhere else and busted loose and came back. So
that's true.
Seattle, I think, is a great farm for musicians, and because it's a great place to be from. But it can be a real struggle sometimes because there are so many musicians and so many people and stuff, and just to be able to. Our producer said this to me a long time ago, and he said, Mike, he goes, you can be the fastest car at NASCAR, and you can be the fastest horse at the Kentucky Derby. He goes, but if you're running with the pack, you probably will never win. You have to find your own lane.
True.
So it's really about that for us. It's like, I support people around here. I'm happy for them, but we're not trying to fall into that. We're not trying to be a part of something else. We're just trying to be us and a community of support, support the community and so forth. But I think the best way we can support the community is set an example, and go out and show people, hey, you can fight your way out. You can get your out there. You can get these big shows. This is possible, and you don't have to have a big record label and, some big, mega Warbucks, guy behind you with millions and millions of dollars. Eventually you will need that. And that's kind of what.
It's kind of where we are now.
We're kind of entering that phase now.
Could really use a record deal now.
Yeah, we do. But you know what? We've got some people. We've got some people that are interested in some of our new material, and there's going to be some of that possible support out there. So, but 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that, and I probably didn't even know that. It's for me, it's been a maturation process of finding the right people to listen to, and that's a real tough thing too. Because everybody thinks, everybody in the music business thinks they know everything about the music business. Just ask them, So, it's really a struggle to go out and find people that really know what they're talking about, that don't have dated or jaded information. And there can be a lot of that in a community like this. It's so rich and steeped with history. So, but yeah, there's some incredible musicians around here, and
absolutely.
And I think you're going to see some cool stuff come out of here, right? As long as it's allowed to.
Yeah.
Who's going to stop it? Oh,
by
never mind.
themselves.
Honestly, like self-limiting mentality is, I think, the one thing that we've been able to overcome is by not saying, oh, that's too big for us, or oh, that's too hard, or that's too far, or anything like that. And uh, because it's so easy to make a self-fulfilling prophecy about the big scary goals and the big audacious goals that you want to make, and if you don't put those into words, and if you don't put that into action in trying to make it happen, and then yeah, it is never going to happen. It's easy, it's easy to let things pass you by, and to just kind of do what works, in the hometown, and out on a big stage, you suddenly become the smallest fish in the pond, when back home you were one of the big guys, right? So you have to be willing to be humble, and you have to be willing to learn and to grow, and to to be respectful of the people that you're working with, like, when you're traveling and you're running into other bands and sound crews and things like that. And you have to be willing to put energy into the people who put energy into you, the people who come to your shows. You have to be willing to be a real person in a way sometimes. For me, that's something that's important, is that people are able to connect with us on a personal level as well. So
Krystle, you seem like a
it's all up
very
there.
down to earth woman, and a
Well,
very,
thank you.
very grounded, if you will. And
Thank you.
Mike, I
I'm
think
short, so it's easy.
yeah, I think your whole band is that way. But I got to ask you, this is a very, very, very important question, Krystle.
I'm ready.
You've got an incredible set of pipes.
Thank you.
What do you think
Thank
of
you.
auto-tune? Oh, Mike is down there laughing. Because let me explain. For those of you who don't know, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but you can now become a musician, a singer, and you can actually go into a studio and be a really mediocre singer, but they can correct it with something called auto tune that they can now even take to the venues, and they can do
Yeah.
it there. So the artistry of what you guys do is, I think, being lost in a way, because now more people can do it who don't deserve to be in that room. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And that's going to be one of those things that in 30 years, it'll be really interesting to look back, right, on like all the stuff that's happening with AI and ChatGPT and autotune. It's kind of all of this emerging stuff. And I mean, people didn't realize that autotune has been around for a while, and it was being used in secret for a long time before people realized it. And Cher came out and was like, ta-da, this is what we're doing, made it kind of a mainstream thing. And it is, I live on the edge of it being something that, like, yes, there's a time and a place for it, but do I think we should be auto-tuning Michael Bublé live on television? Absolutely not. Like there's like an age that I don't want to lose in the idea that a perfect note is not always the right note. Listen to blues, listen to jazz, listen to angsty rock, right? When you are singing and the emotion comes through, and all of a sudden the note is a little sharp, or you're portraying an emotion and it pulls the pitch down, those things are so important in the communication, in the performance. And I don't want that to get lost. And the thing that scares me is so much of the radio music is so perfectly tuned and so perfectly correct that what a natural human voice is capable of, which is obviously not perfection. We can't sing that perfectly. It's just not possible. The thing that worries me is that people are going to be so used to that sound of perfection on the radio that they'll lose appreciation for the artistry, and they'll lose appreciation for the singer who came out on stage and was having was sick as a dog, but came out and sang anyways. And now their voice is a little gravelly, and they're emoting more because they have to communicate differently inside of a song because of how their body is working on that day. To me, there's so much richness in the humanity of singing that I don't want that to get lost.
Whenever I listen to those types of songs, they lack the emotion.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
From the real person.
You can do the same thing with the instruments too. And I do have to throw this out there. Okay. Number one, when you listen to any of our recordings, I can tell you, as the person that's been on the back knob of these things, we very rarely, if at all, ever have to tune her.
If anything, we'll go in and correct a small place because we'll find a performance that gives the emotion that we want. And maybe something didn't quite get where it needs to be, and we'll just kind of nudge a little something around. But auto-tuning an entire track, absolutely not.
Yeah, and you can do the same thing with the instruments. And and the problem with that is that, as you take emotion out of out of singing, you can take tension out of the the musical performances. Sometimes having a beat that drags just a little bit, maybe isn't, maybe didn't stay right on the click through a section, but because it drug, it created a certain type of tension that maybe just created a mood. And I think, sometimes they're happy accidents, sometimes they're excuses. sometimes, but sometimes that's exactly what you want to do. And I know I've had to do that with my engineer a couple of times. Say, no, don't fix that. I want it like that. And stuff. So that's I don't know, man. Technology is bizarre. I don't know. Somebody told me I was wrong about this the other day. I go, the only thing is, I don't think you're going to see AI mosh or body surf. But but I don't know. But as a musician myself, and as long as I get to do this stuff, I still hold reverence to those guys, back in the 70s and early 80s and stuff, that were doing the stuff to tape. They didn't have the ability to go in, and they had to be good at what they did. And that's why there were so few of them, They were special. And I think we're taking the specialness out of our industry and out of our artistry.
Speaking of special, guys, we're going to run out of time. And it happens to me every time. We're going to run out. But I want to make sure that we get the song in that we're going to play next. And so to set it up for me, what are we going to listen to?
We're listening to a song called Good Fight. That is a song I wrote initially, really quickly, about my relationship with my husband. But when we recorded it, released it in 2020, there was a lot going on in the world. There was a lot of, violence and riots and things. And the song grew up into something that we treat as our kind of our battle song, our call to humanity again, of just like, we have to fight for each other instead of against each other, or we're never going to get anywhere.
Right. I love that, because ultimately we are all one.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Mike and Krystle from Limberlost for coming on. I've really enjoyed this hour.
This has been great. Thank you so much for the support, man.
It's been my pleasure. And with that, we're gonna go into that song. We're gonna be able to play about 4 minutes of it. It's a 7-minute piece, but you'll get a good flavor for the music and the style, and then go to limberlostmusic.com and buy the dang thing. What did you play?
Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome, guys, and thank you. And you'll have to come back. Will you do that?
Absolutely, 100%.
Absolutely, great. By the way, Eric, take it away. But in the meantime, take care of each other and be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got.
Absolutely.
Empires rise and fall. The seasons make way for the changes. And some things don't stay the same at all. We're no longer at the start, but still nowhere near the ending. And before we drift apart, let's take these thoughts and paint them on the sides. Let's and hanging around today. This tangle of misunderstandings we've been dragging around again. 'Cause I won't let you go. No, we're not going down. We're not going under. It's a good fight worth fighting. It's a good fight. Yeah, we're not going down. We're not going under. It's a good fight worth fighting. We are worth fighting for. We're not always eye to eye. Oh, but we're still heart to heart. And when the days get dark,